I work for the Coalition for College Cost Savings and partnered with those the good people there also. So good to see everyone today. We have a great webinar. This group actually, I've known Joe Street for a long time. I've known Wes Matthews and a lot of the folks that are there at Doctums. Doctums is a great company, and really, and I always put this in there. Joe probably wants to slap me, but I really think that these folks are best in consulting and helping the C-suite of our institutions become more strategic in the use of technology. A president I had a long time ago as a CIO, he said that IT was acted as the toilet that kept on flushing. That is not what we want IT to look like today. IT is, and technology itself should be used as a strategic advantage for our institutions. And many of our institutions are using technology as a strategic advantage and really being very successful and very forward thinking in that. I will say that across the board, that is not the case for all of our colleges and universities across the country. Joe Street and Doctums is really a strategic and technology related company that really serves the C-suite, the leadership of the institutions that they work with in a way that I don't believe very many other companies do. They are outstanding at positioning technology as a strategic advantage and a real differentiator for institutions across the country, specifically in private nonprofit colleges and universities, as HES and the coalition we serve. So, Joe, I want to introduce you. Joe is Joe's actual. Your actual title is Director of Higher Ed Sales in North America. Is that correct, Joe?
Actually, yeah, that is correct. I cover the East Coast if we're getting technical and accurate, but
okay,
yeah, that'll work.
I got you. Well, there's very few excellent, outstanding, I call them frienders, not just vendors, but friends. Very few of those in my vocabulary today, and Joe is definitely one of them. Joe, I'm going to turn it over to you, and please let these good folks know all about what Doctums does and how you can help them.
All right. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and get this screen shared. All right. Can everybody see that?
Got it. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay. So, yeah, thanks, Keith. So, hello, everybody. See a number of familiar faces that have joined us today. Some new ones. So, welcome everybody to the official introduction webinar with Doctums. This is joined, as everybody knows, between the HES Consortium and the Coalition for College Cost Savings. Some of the HES members that are joining us may have seen a few of my colleagues present webinars over the last few months. But for those that are joining for the first time or that are joining from the Coalition, I appreciate that you're able to join us today, or in case you weren't with us today, that you are watching this later on. As Keith said, I'm Joe Street. I'm Director of Sales for the eastern half of the U.S. with Doctums. And just for some quick background, I've had some experience as an IT director and CIO within the higher ed community a number of years ago. So, I've lived some of the pain that everybody has. So, definitely can relate to a lot of the things that are going on right now and the things that you all deal with on a day-to-day basis. All right. So before I get into, who Doctums is, what we do, I want to kind of start things off by talking about something that everybody's familiar with. So every institution has processes on campus. And these traditionally, up until the last couple of decades, those were paper processes where one person created a piece of paper, moved it across campus to somebody else. They did something with that paper, that information, generated more paper, and it continued until all that paper ended up stored in metal filing cabinets, storage rooms. We've all seen the pictures or potentially lived it. I don't know how many of you actually did, paper processes or paper registration when you did undergrad or any of your college education, but I think I may have been toward the end of paper registration, but I definitely remember it. Thankfully, in the last 20, 30 years, we've progressed beyond that and the frustrations that it generated. Most processes have been digitized through a mix of applications at each institution. Of course, there's always that conundrum of which application do you use to deliver that service or function to your constituents. This graphic, which is from 2021 from EdVentures, kind of shows the different areas where different vendors provide services for software. And the reason I'm showing this is to illustrate the point that there's always a lot of options out there. There's a lot of vendors playing in each of these different service areas. So you have different ways to potentially meet your needs that are going to deliver different levels of functionality. Because different vendors often offer different mixes of functionality in their solutions that are competing against each other, what you end up with on campus is multiple applications in use that overlap in functionality. And higher ed organizations or organizations at large rarely utilize all the available features of every application that they own. And the driver behind this is that there is seldom a process in software, utilization or reevaluation step when a new system is put in place. And once they're purchased and deployed and live, the chances of any institution going back and doing an evaluation like this decreases as time goes on. What this does is it leads to a lost value because of the unused features and the wasted value in the overlapping functions that need to be kept in sync between the different applications to avoid data issues. And it grows even more pronounced as time goes by and new features are rolled out by vendors that institutions either are not made aware of or don't implement because they don't have the time and resources. When new features are released, or a new system is purchased or a system is retired, those should be viewed as opportunities to reevaluate your current processes and the application usage to see if there's any kind of strategic advantage that can be gained during that moment of change that would allow you to recapture value or reduce your overall spend.
Joe, we lost you for about 30 seconds.
Really?
Yep.
No, I could hear you just fine. It sounds like it
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, definitely let me know if you lose me, definitely let me know. So the one thing I'll point out on this graphic is it only shows two systems or two products or two applications. When you start to expand this out to all the different products that you're using within your IT suite or application mix on campus, you really start to see that this compounds as everything starts to share things that overlap, potential overlap, unused features that you're not taking advantage of. And what it does is it leads to a compounding loss of strategic value and wasted spend at the institution. And that directly impacts the people that are served by your campuses. So this could be students, staff, faculty, parents, alumni, anyone that's interacting with your institution. You know, when people get frustrated by outdated or cumbersome processes, they're going to look elsewhere for educational and career needs. If you take the steps by doing periodic reevaluations of your processes, your technology portfolio, your software utilization, you can leverage what you've already invested in or that you're looking to purchase and invest in and deploy to its full strategic value for your institution. This helps ensure that you're competitive within your recruitment markets, be it for students, employees, or even for donations. But going back to some of what Keith said earlier, you don't want technology to be viewed as that toilet scenario that he described. Technology's progressed beyond that. Right now, technology should be viewed as more than just a replacement for paper. It's a strategic differentiator, and how you use it at your campus compared to the campus down the street, the campus across the state, the public institutions that you're competing with as private institutions, that's going to be your success, key to your success going forward. And that's where Doctums can help. So we're Doctums. We're a higher education consulting group that helps you leverage technology to solve your strategic needs. We assist campus leaders in making the most out of their technology investments, both with the applications that are already owned and, when appropriate, with the selection and implementation of new technology. We look at the processes and impact that they have on the people before evaluating the technology, and it's fit to ensure that the strategic impact will be maximized instead of starting with the technology. We're platform and vendor agnostic, but we maintain relationships and partnerships with all the major software providers. This allows us to be a neutral party that can help advise CIOs, CFOs, HR, admissions, and other campus leaders on how to best unlock the strategic value of the technology solutions that are in place today. When those solutions are not meeting campus needs, then Doctums can help guide campuses through the process of identifying what their requirements are for a new system selection. Again, unlike some other organizations, Doctums does not advocate for or on behalf of a certain vendor or vendors. We advocate for the needs of the campus leadership and community, and then bring the required processes and technology into alignment to maximize the strategic value. So why were we founded? Why are we here? We were founded by a group of higher education leaders that had experience both on campuses as users and IT leaders, as well as having spent time as service providers and software vendors. They realized that there was a gap between the two traditional options for IT consulting in higher education. On one end, there are the technical consulting firms who typically specialize in tactical break-fix type work. And they usually engage with IT or with a specific individual or individual department on campus. Then on the other end, there are the large consulting firms that typically operate in multiple industries, not just higher ed. And they tend to focus on delivering strategic and business process consulting services at the C-suite level. They rarely assist in the change management and the delivery of those recommendations. And if they do, it's typically with a higher price tag and potentially via an outsourced partner. There's also a focus with those groups of the best practice or the X way. When it comes to the recommendations that they make, they rarely take into account the nuances of private education, or private higher ed education needs and the requirements that you all have. That's where Doctums comes in. We were founded to bridge that gap, provide the strategic and business process consulting services to campus leadership, while also having the technical team of consultants to deliver on our recommendations, but in a cost-effective manner for the higher education community. So we have a full suite of service areas. This is just an example list. It's not all inclusive. All of our engagements are bespoke and tailored to each campus that we work with and their needs. We recognize the differences in how public, private, and for-profit institutions operate, are governed and regulated and accredited depending on their state and region. So we work to ensure that we match our services to your needs to help you find a path to maximize the value of your systems instead of sticking to pre-developed cookie cutter scopes that treat everyone the same. We also have your cultures and processes in mind when we work with you. Those are what make you unique and deliver the special sauce that makes your campuses have the culture that they do. We don't come in and just say that those need to be replaced. We preserve what you want to see preserved in our recommendations, and we make recommendations to improve those areas that could see increased value. This is a sample of some of the private institutions that we've worked with or actively engaged with. Most of them are members of either the coalition and/or HES. And even with the summer vacation season, I was able to get 2 people to agree to join us today to speak to some of the work that we've done with their campuses. So that way you get to hear firsthand what it's like to work with Doctums and the benefit of doing so. Right. And with us first, let's see, Karen, are you on?
I sure am, Joe.
Okay, so I'd like to introduce Karen, the Associate CIO at Drake University. We've been working with Drake for almost 3 years now on multiple projects, and Karen has agreed to discuss some of the projects that we've done. Potentially, I think she was going to talk about some of the work we've done with Banner Finance, around self-service and some Banner 9 training. So, Karen?
All right. Well, hello, everyone. So my name is Karen Fiorenza. I am leading up the technology department here at Drake University. And we've been working with Doctums for about a little over 3 years now. We started out with a project that we knew was inevitable and had been kicking the can down the road for quite a while, and that was migrating all of our self-service from the old Banner 8 to Banner 9. And we reached out to Doctums to help us not necessarily just do that implementation, but help us verify that we had the right plan in place, our schedule was realistic, and then do some training, particularly with our our colleagues in the business areas, just on how the configurations work, some of the decisions that they needed to make on processes and so on. After we got that project moving, one thing that came to the surface is that we owned and licensed the Banner Finance self-service system, but we weren't using it. And the primary reason the university had never used that was just that the way that the system was designed didn't really line up with the way that we did our accounts payable processes. So once again, we talked to the folks at Doctums, and they helped us put that product in place. We fully implemented it. And it took a little bit of time because we did have that disconnect between how the department and the university was managing all of our manual and paper processes for accounts payable, and really the Banner system that was really geared a little bit more towards a PO-based purchasing system. And what we really appreciated about the work that we did with the Doctums team is that we didn't sit down with them and have them tell us, okay, this is the solution that you need. You either need to use the technology as is, or you just need to change all your processes, or we're going to customize this thing to the extent that it's not recognizable, twist it around to match your existing processes. We kind of balanced both and really figured out what was the right way to do it. And I'm happy to say that the system has been in place for, I think, a year and a half or 2 years even almost now. Everybody is thrilled thrilled with the change. It's just helped us be so much more efficient. I don't know as we could function without that now. So that was just a really, it was great to have that expertise and their ability to kind of lead us through that process of reviewing how we do our work and making it better with the system. One thing that I will say in all the projects that we worked on that I really appreciate about this group is that they have a breadth of experience and knowledge. So whenever we have a gap, maybe we don't fully understand a piece of the financial aid process, or we run into an issue, we've always been able to turn to them for that little bit of extra expertise that we just don't have internally. Any questions for me or anything else I can answer or talk about?
Hey, Karen, I do. It's Keith. I'm just kind of curious, how has Doctums helped you to position IT projects among your cabinet and maybe even among your board in terms of, being able to position them as strategic and helping you to kind of frame them in a way that is more crucial to the organization as a whole?
Well, I would say certainly on the transition from finance, all the paper processes that we have for finance and moving that into Banner self-service was definitely a strategic decision that I think having, for me, when I was talking with president and others on campus, convincing them that this was the direction to go was a lot easier, knowing that we had that experience kind of backing us up, that we had this partner that had, again, the breadth of experience and knowledge to help us do it successfully. And also, I think our ability to say, look, we're not being tied into one approach. We talked with Lucian about implementing, and it was very kind of a rigid approach. We're going to make this technology, we're going to adjust the way we work, to meet the way the tool operates. And just that flexibility made it a lot easier to sell we need to make this change, and this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to get the expertise that we didn't have in the past to make this happen.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't be shy. Karen is a wonderful resource.
I will say too that, more recently we've done, we kind of stepped a little bit outside of the Banner safety zone and worked on some other projects. So we've been working with a lot of our existing processes in the old Banner workflow tool, and then working with Doctums to convert that over to Process Maker, which is the workflow tool that we're doing. It's connected with Banner, but it really is a standalone software. And we've had that's gone really well. We've converted, oh my gosh, well, I think at least a dozen at this point processes over from the old system and into Process Maker. So that's been great to have that more technical assistance in that area as well. Again, don't be shy. I'm happy to answer any questions I can.
All right, well, if anybody thinks any questions, we can always bring them up at the end. So thanks, Karen. We really appreciate that. And then we also have Laura from Elon. Laura, are you on?
Here, can you hear me?
We can. All right.
Awesome.
So yeah, we've been working with Laura and the folks over at Elon University. I think we're not quite a year yet. We've already done several engagements with them. And Laura was going to talk about some work that we've done with the finance team So Laura, I will turn it over to you.
Sure. So as Joe said, we kind of began our journey together last October, although my contact with Joe goes way back to some of the Eleusian days. But in just engaging with Doctums, it started with our associate VP of Finance Administration saying, Laura, okay, so we've really got to get a handle on our whole procurement process. In recent years, we've had a lot of turnover in both senior staff as well as within some of our purchasing and accounts payable staff. So we had some people that have been here through, we have colleague on our site, and we've had some people that have been here almost since the beginning of colleague, as well as all the way to, well, I've got a new 6-month employee. So you've got a whole breadth of ways that we do things, people that know things because we handed them down from, I trained him and he trained me, and that's all we got. So we found our place in a position that we just really needed to look at the whole procurement process and say, where do we go from here? Do we need another system, or do we need to do something more with what we've got? And that was our first big engagement with Doctums, and they did a journey mapping. So it looked at the entire process, to including sentiment of where are the pain points, and don't just fix something if it's really not the biggest nut in the jar. So I really thought that sentiment journey was particularly interesting with regard to the engagement that we did. And ultimately, when we came through the process, it kind of came out in, they made recommendations, much like Karen was saying, and their recommendations weren't just do it this way. It included, well, you can optimize, you can implement some of the things that you already license and get more for your money, like Joe highlighted in his presentation, trying to minimize some of that waste. And then even looking at some of our other systems, like we use eTree for our document management, and we utilize that, as well as a custom application that we've used for doing purchase requests outside of colleague. So how can we pull all of those disparate systems together to work more seamlessly and make tweaks here and there? And that has really gone a long way. And their recommendations ended up just even the engagement and working to get to those recommendations, people's eyes were open, like, wow, they really know their stuff. That was really exciting. Whenever someone would say, did you know that this screen could do, and like the room would light up. So immediately, I think the buy-in to their depth of knowledge, certainly of colleague and I'm sure other systems, but just the way business is done in higher ed, was very clear, and I think did a lot to build some rapport, to the point that even today, just today, I got a call from that same associate VP of Finance Administration, and she said, okay, so we're in a bind. Do you think we can call Doctums and just have them available to help us get us through this this payroll need, because we've got a brand new payroll director and we just lost an employee. So it has gone a long way to not just improving one process, but to actually building a relationship that we know that, oh, there's somebody that we can call on, and that they'll be there for us if we need to. So that's kind of the big picture of things. One of the other projects that we've done is we're in the midst of a colleague security review, trying to revamp some of our colleague security, where we've used to be very individual based, and now we're trying to go more toward role-based security. And so that is a huge undertaking, but I'm hoping that will bring us some great wins in the future, just from a maintenance perspective. But any questions anyone has for me?
Well, I'm going to ask you this
group today.
question, Laura,
Yeah.
that I asked previously. I'm curious about how Doctums has helped you as a CIO kind of position your department as a strategic advantage as opposed to a cost center. Maybe you could give me some and everyone some insight into that.
Sure. I would say it's definitely a strategic thing because like I said, anytime you're making better use of the money you've already spent, then you can spend money elsewhere and get more out of it. So in this recommendation, particularly, we've looked at implementing the purchasing requisition through the tool that we already have and we've spent money on, and for whatever reason years back maybe it wasn't the right decision, but we've been able to say, okay, let's look at that differently. And I think even strategically from the supporting the, we having been on colleague for 25 plus years, which is a long time, we have managed to do a lot of customizations in that time frame. And so strategically, we're really trying to get away from some of those customizations. And this will help us utilize our employees better, as well as utilize the software that we already have and own.
Thank you, Laura. That was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Laura? Okay. If you think anything, definitely bring it up here in a few minutes before we end. But Laura, thank you so much for that.
Sure thing. Thanks.
All right. So you've heard from, Karen and Laura, and they've kind of gone over some of the projects that we've done with their institutions. And I showed you examples of some of the work that we could do. But again, if you want to speak to somebody at Doctums about a potential project that you might have on campus, or start a discussion about any sort of strategic positioning of technology, definitely reach out to the email address that's on the screen right now, inquiries@doctums.com, and either myself or my colleague, Chris Beckstrand, who covers the western half of the US, one of us will get in touch with you and can begin that conversation and hopefully help give you some of the support and assistance that you need. And now we're into the question part of this. So if anybody has any questions about anything that we've brought up, or you wrote something down that you want to ask Karen or Laura, definitely come off mute and ask that question. But I do appreciate everybody's time today. So
absolutely, thank you, Joe. Don't be shy. Ask Joe any questions. We've had so many good folks say great things about Doctums and their breadth of knowledge and their insights. I'm not good with uncomfortable silence, so I'm just going to try my best and shut up. And if you have a question, please come off mute.
Hi, Joe. This is Renee. I'm with Colorado Christian University. We have some new leadership. We have a new president. We have a new vice president of finance and technology. And one of the things that has been questioned is maybe an IT assessment. So kind of like, are you properly staffed? Are you thinking that you need to get off your on-prem colleague? Just some kind of overall review of IT for the new president. Is that a kind of engagement that you guys would do?
Yes, absolutely. And we do that kind of work with institutions. We're engaged in similar assessments with a couple of institutions right now across the U.S. So that's definitely something that we could assist with.
Okay, so from a technology perspective, as well as a kind of a properly staffed perspective, okay, okay. I will probably be reaching out then. Thank you.
We look forward to hearing from you.
Great.
Thanks, Renee. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem, Keith. Thank you.
Others, please open up your mic and ask a question. Well, Joe, we're so happy that you could be with us today. The Doctums is such a great resource, both for our HES members and our coalition members. HES coalition, the partnership has brought together a new MSA that features some pretty amazing pricing to our members, to our collective members, between the two organizations, which actually overlap almost 100% because of course the coalition serves only private nonprofit colleges and universities, and HES is the same. So we hope you will utilize those special prices. And Joe was very instrumental in advocating great pricing through our new MSA with Doctums. So we appreciate you, Joe, and your support of HES and now the Coalition for College Cost Savings. Well, if we don't have any other questions, we will close up today, but I want to thank Joe and Doctums for bringing this to us. And I want to thank you as an institution for joining us. As a Coalition HES contract partner, Joe and his team will be bringing quarterly webinars on different topics throughout the year for our HES members. And we want you to be a part of that. If your institution is not a part of the HES consortium, we definitely want you to join. All you have to do is go to www.hesconsortium.org, and there you'll see all the information there about HES. And there is a join now button there, and you can join. Thanks to the coalition and your state association, the membership fee is free again this year. Thanks to that wonderful partnership that we have between these organizations. So we appreciate that too. Okay, we hope that you have a great day today, and thank you for being a part of this webinar, and keep your eyes peeled for additional webinars coming up soon. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Have a great day.